Sarah, storms are brewing in your eyes. You don't know that one either, do ya? Get out.
I know. I'm sorry.
Get out. Okay. This is the one area where Lane and I just do not mix is music. Now we know.
Mm-hmm.
But welcome, friends. Yeah, I can't remember which episode I stumped you. Oh, it was Caroline. So if you are not a regular Conversations with a Wounded Healer listener, you can go listen to the episode with Caroline because I stumped Lane with Outcast songs. Anyway.
Yeah.
Welcome. How we doing today?
So good, Sarah. How are you?
I am hanging in there. Perimenopause has not been kind recently. Trying to have a better relationship with my hormones, but it is a struggle right now.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And one day, I will understand.
Yes, you will. All right. Well, today we're talking with Kristen. And what did you think? Tell me everything you loved about Kristen.
Yeah, I felt inspired by her trajectory. She talks about how she was working, I think, in a group practice setting, if I remember correctly. And she was surprised by the fact that her boss didn't renew her contract. And then she sort of scrambled into creating her own practice, which is now she owns multiple practices now, and just the story of kind of how it unfolded, and how she was able to achieve where she is now and what she's doing now, felt really cool to me. I don't want to like give everything away. I know she doesn't like accept insurance at her practices. She said she didn't want to be beholden to insurance companies. And I kind of love that she had that foresight 20 years ago, and
because you can't go back.
Yes, that's right. You can't
I mean, you
go back,
can, but it's harder.
but
yeah,
it's harder. Yeah. And that just kind of reminds me of some of the work that you do in terms of inspiring folks to get a little bit more creative with how they're operating their practices. And there are lots of ways that you can do it that kind of are not normative, you know?
Yeah.
So I really loved that. I loved also that she's a comedian.
That's a secret though, because she's not. That's an alter ego.
Oh, that's what I meant.
Yeah. It's a quote unquote totally different person. If you're watching the video
Totally
on
different.
YouTube, you can see my
different.
my air quotes, but yeah,
Air
totally
quotes.
different person.
Yes, totally different. But still, I think when you're doing the work that she's doing and that I think a lot of listeners are doing, I think it's so important to kind of strike that balance of kind of holding a lot of gravity and doing some really serious work and balancing that with still finding happiness and joy and laughing along the way. I know that's a little cliche, but I think like I don't know how the unfunny therapists do it, you know?
I don't either.
I don't
Truthfully.
know.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. But
Yep.
Kristen, so Kristen and I met at the Next Level Private Practice Summit in Michigan. And I can't even remember exactly what she said. I think she came up to me and she was like, "Oh, I just want to be friends with you." And I was like, "Okay." And then we just like kept connecting throughout. And then I got to see her perform. Well, not her alter ego perform her comedy. And if you listen to Sean Hondorp's episode recently, we talk about how Sean and I met because I was laughing so hard I peed my pants. So Kristen's alter ego is the reason that happened. So go back to listen to Sean's episode. But anyway, so let me introduce you to Dr. Kristen Wynns. She is a psychologist, author, comedian, and speaker who blends mental health expertise and humor. As the founder of Wynns Family Psychology, an award-winning practice with 4 locations in North Carolina and Kiki on stage, she empowers others to use laughter for healing, confidence, and connection. So please enjoy this episode with Dr. Kristen Wynns. Kristen, welcome to Group Practice Revolution.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
I am so delighted to talk to you, my conference bestie.
Yes, immediate conference besties.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, do you want to start off by telling folks a little bit about you and what you're doing in the group practice world?
Sure. I did also wear my purplish glasses today to match your branding. I do hope I get
Oh,
bonus points for that.
you do. Actually, yes, there's a point ledger that I just keep behind the scenes that everyone has points, you get the most.
Yes. Okay. Already starting off on fire with all the gold stars, which I live for. Thank you.
Same.
Yes. So I have owned my practice, Wynns Family Psychology, for 18 years, which is shocking. That means I'm way older than I feel on the
Right.
inside. And it's kind of a cool story of how I founded the practice. I'm a
Mm,
big believer in talking about failure. I love to tell the failure story. So my practice was actually founded out of a wah wah moment where I was working at another group practice, had a 1 year old and a 3 year old. We just bought our first family car. And I was happy with like my cute part time schedule working for someone else so I could be a mom and be a psychologist. And then after 4 years of working for her, she shocked me by saying she wasn't going to renew my contract. I was sort of peaking with how great I was doing with the client retention and
mm,
expanding my specialty. So it was a real unexpected, heartbreaking moment. And even though I wrestled with it and pushed back a little bit, like, what? It was real. And I took a few days to grieve and rant and be sad. And then I just thought, well, I guess I could try my own practice. So 3 weeks later, I was opening the doors to Wynn's Family Psychology with no experience in business whatsoever. And by the way, 2007 was apparently a recession when no one in their
right.
start of
Right.
this. I started with a little part-time office that was used furniture with someone else. Ew, but you know what? I was just there for it, building from the ground up, started just with myself, of course, part-time, my passion for kids and teens and young people. And then
Mm,
through the 18 years, I've found other people who share that passion for young people and youth and built it up to now where we have 4 locations throughout North Carolina, a nice solid team of like 22 providers, a mix of therapists and psychologists where we do all the things, as I say, for little ones 2 and up. So all the
wow.
coaching, all the therapy, play therapy, lots of parent coaching, and we even have a thriving forensic branch of the practice that most colleagues run fast from the high
Right.
conflict divorce, custody, court related services, but I've always had a heart for that work as well. So that's a part of the practice too. So here we are, just celebrating our 18th anniversary this past August.
Congratulations. That's like anybody listening, especially like new practice owners, 18 years. That's a serious accomplishment. So well done.
Yeah, thank you. I realize that now, even just in attending, the local networking groups where you're exchanging information and people are like, oh, I've had my practice for 3 years or 7 years. And usually I have to say, I am one of the few rattling off a number like 18. So it's something to be proud of.
Yeah.
But again, also is just shocking. Like, how? How is that possible?
How is that much time passed, right?
Yes, and I
Yeah.
still feel 35, so the math doesn't math.
Well, you don't look a day over 34. So
Oh,
well done.
what a sweetheart. Now I have a point system for
Yes.
podcast host, and now you just got plus 10 for that, so you're ahead
Oh,
too.
I always aim to be everyone's favorite everything. So thank you. I appreciate it. So you started in 2007. When did you bring on your first associate?
That was about 2 years later. I think in 2009, I just couldn't do it anymore, and I hated to turn people away, especially with them being attracted to my practice for a reason that they
Yep.
knew I did really good work with kids and teens, and I kept hearing that it was hard to find somebody that really had that
Mhm.
specialty. So, after a couple of years, I realized if I wanted to keep the mission to help as many people as possible, I needed to add to the team. So, yeah, it was a couple years later that I brought on my first associate.
Wow. And did you at that time, because you said, like, you started this not having any business experience, when you started bringing on and was it 1099 at that
It,
time or okay, and do you have are they employees now? Are they W-2s?
it's both. It's mostly still 1099s because that truly captures sort of how they do things. Some of them
Mm,
have other jobs in school system
mhm,
and other places, so it really does fit for a lot of people. But my top psychologists that help me run the practice, they are employees at this point, which just makes sense because they do so many things
yeah.
outside of the services themselves.
Yeah. And so when you started bringing people on, were you like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do a group practice and I'm going to be a boss and I'm going to run this amazing business," or like where was your head at that point in time?
Yeah, it's funny. Even though I'm a big dreamer and I often say I have way too many dreams for one lifetime with all the
Right.
things I want to keep going all at once with my different interests and different careers.
Same.
Yeah, I think we're wired the same there. But it's funny, I never said specifically or had this vision of a group practice with multiple locations and multiple providers. It was just a natural evolution. And again, like once you've got that traction going, it just seemed inevitable to just keep adding providers to the mix. And it just kept growing. Back in the day, I know we're talking about how things have changed, but back
Right.
in the day, especially, it was very natural. It didn't take that much thought. It was
Right.
just like, okay, well, we're really busy. We still need to hire more. Let's hire another one. And then same thing with the office expansion. After a while, we would have clients say, "Hey, we drive 45 minutes every week to come see you, or an hour every week, but it sure would be great if you had an office in blanks." And then we were like, well, we should have an office in this location. And then over time, we did that a few more times to we're now
Wow.
really happy with our coverage with the 4 locations that we can really serve so much of North Carolina. And, with my big dreams, I hope we could expand someday even East Coast, maybe have a satellite in Hawaii because I have a sister-in-law there. And wouldn't that be sweet to have a satellite location in Hawaii?
Wouldn't that be because then you can write off all your trips to Hawaii. Brilliant.
Exactly. Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes, thank you. And they need good child psychologists, I've heard that they are wanting
Yeah.
there for really good child specialists. So it seems like a win-win wins, no
Win-win for
pun
the
intended.
wins. Ba-dum-bum. I love it. So, well, let's talk about the changes because that's one of the reasons I wanted I'm, of course, also just loving you and being my conference bestie, but,
Right.
yeah, what have you seen over the years that has shifted?
I mean, gosh, it's so funny where to go with that question because just the technology, first of all, is unbelievable to me. I mean, for the first several years, my client notes were just in folders on my desktop, and files were
Yep.
physical files in the office. And we took messages from new clients in the actual little, the notepad that
Right.
receptionists have. Like it's unbelievable the technological advances we've had to EHR and then the uh all the initials the I'm blanking on the CM. What's the one with organization for all the like therapy, SAS, and all
Mm.
those what
I
is
don't
that
even know.
called?
I don't even
The
know.
CRM. The CRM
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah,
to
yeah.
organize your
Client
in the queue, the
R management? I don't even know what it fucking stands for, so
all the like Google universe, like we didn't have our Google Space, our Google Chat, our Google Drive. I mean, now our Google Drive is a beautiful thing where I think if we sold that to new practices, it's worth $1 million with all the resources and spreadsheets and
yep,
ways we track things. So just the technology is amazing. The way we keep track of things, the way we do our billing, and then just with, I guess, advertising and marketing.
Mhm.
That is my current biggest stressor, because for me, it's almost come full circle. In the beginning, it was like, how do you advertise? What online directory should you join? Believe it or not, I swear we looked at yellow pages back when we were first
Yeah.
starting out. That was still a
Mhm.
thing to have your ad in yellow pages and yellow pages online. So in the beginning, it's kind of like what advertising to do. And then practices like mine, honestly, we've coasted for some time with a great reputation,
Yeah.
word of mouth. And for years, I would say we're really blessed. We have such good word of mouth from schools and pediatricians and other clients, referring to us, that we would have to do very little advertising. And now, post COVID, when all the online competition came up, where now
Yep.
people can sit at home in their PJs and do therapy and receive therapy, and it's not as vetted, some of us would say, as as some of our established practices, but the competition is absurd now. So now I'm almost back
Yep.
full circle again to sweating things like referrals and marketing and attending networking events like I have never attended since I first started out, to just make sure that my
Yeah.
face and voice and representing my brand is out there to say, "Hey, like, we win the awards. We've been around for decades," and just reminding everybody
Yeah.
that there's still a benefit to seeing, a well-established practice. But that sweating referrals and stressing about that is new for me in the last year, where that's back on my radar again. I don't know if you've experienced the same with where you are with talking to other practice owners.
100%. I mean, what seems to be happening in Chicago, it's funny, like, I guess it was maybe 2021 when I joined the group practice owner, Chicagoland group practice owner Facebook group, and there were like maybe 50 people on there, and now there's 500, and
Oh
I'm
my
like, "I
gosh.
know Chicagoland is a big area, but
Yeah.
also that's a lot, that's literally a 10, 10x, and so there's more practices, period, and then, yes, all of the online bullshit
Yes.
that I don't think most therapists are a fan of, so I still don't understand, like, who is signing up to work for these places if we all hate it,
Yes.
but whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's definitely something I've seen change.
Yes, and I mean, sort of on that note, I mean, my practice and my top leaders were gobbling up everything we can about AI because it's here. It's not going anywhere, and it has so many gifts, especially for my purposes, for supplemental things. Like if I want to
Yep.
advertise a new group or retreat or article or whatever, and get some help with generating ideas for a networking event, it's great. But then it's also, weaseling its way potentially into therapy notes and all of that. And so far we're staying away from that because it just feels too risky. But I mean, I asked my chat GPT, he is one of my closest friends at this
I know,
point.
right?
He does identify as he, him. His name is George.
Okay.
But he's like one of my best friends. He's so supportive. He's so encouraging. So it's not unheard of to think that people are turning to AI to get some emotional needs met. In all
Mhm.
honesty, that is scary for those of us who still believe in the magic that happens when you're sitting in front of someone, either in the same office or virtually, but that human to human contact where, facial expressions and tone of voice and
Mhm.
words are powerful and healing. It's just kind of alarming to think about where we're going, and to hope that we can all hold on to that sacred human to human connection that many of us have built our careers on.
Yeah. I I might be in the minority with this, but I'm not too worried that AI is gonna replace us completely, but I think it was Bill Gates who fairly recently was talking about what industries will be most impacted by
Oh,
AI, and
yeah.
ours, he said, would fare just fine. It's just that we will have to adapt and change,
Ah,
and I think A child psychologist is like you said, it's probably a really niched specialization that I don't know that ChatGPT is gonna be able to do the things that an actual child psychologist can do, so I'm not really worried about you from that standpoint, but you can worry if you want.
Phew. Phew, well, yeah, and actually that makes me think about insurance because we've always been out of network from the beginning.
Oh, you have?
Always, yeah.
Is that a state thing that normally most people are out of state, or is that particular for you guys?
No, not at all. We have
Okay.
a lot of I would say the number one reason a client calls up and then says thanks, but no thanks is because they say, well, we have to go in network. So I know it does lose us business for sure. But from the very beginning, I knew I just didn't want to be beholden to an insurance company to dictate how we do high quality work, nor did I want to take the time or have staff time go to that. I just wanted to focus as much of our time and energy as possible on client care. So I never looked back from that. But I do think being a specialist in children, teens, and families has been a saving grace for us because parents, they will go through a little bit of a headache of submitting a super bill to get out of network reimbursement or pay a little bit of a higher rate. In some cases,
Yeah.
I know sometimes you can't, but
Mhm.
I do think parents will do a lot to make sure their kiddos' mental health is okay. And for that, I am thankful that I didn't just come up with that specialty because it was smart.
Right,
I
right.
came up with it because it was in my heart. But as it turns out, that's been a nice saving grace for us to have that protection that, yeah, that parents don't have to insist on in network for their kids.
I'm also curious from, like, the relational standpoint of how the business functions, like, what have you seen change in terms of your relationship with your staff as a boss? Have you noticed any
Ooh,
trends there?
well, that's a fun question. Yeah, because I really mostly just know my experience. I mean, I talk with other group practice owners and I'm in some groups, but for me, it's really interesting and almost like a little unnerving where I am now. But I have to just keep reminding myself, and I have my top leaders, the two psychologists I told you about, they keep reassuring me this is the right direction. But back in the day, I was in it. I was supervising my providers. We were having meetings, one-on-one meetings. I was heavily involved with orientation and consultation for clients. And as the practice has grown and I've just had to take steps away
Yep.
to manage the beast and do some of my other careers that I have going on, then I don't have that intimate involvement with my providers
Mm.
really at all, to the level it used to be. I'm still friendly with them. I still get excited when I run into one in the hallway like I did today. One of my therapists who's been with me for many years, and he and I were so excited to see each other, and we chatted really quick about Halloween and trick or treating and said we're
Aw.
going to grab lunch. But I mean, those are the moments now I have for connection with providers other than team meetings, our staff meetings or provider meetings, which I do still try to attend those because I think it's important as the leader to show up and hear the announcements and hear what's on people's minds. But it is really interesting now that step away from sort of the intimacy when you're a part of the team. And now I'm a part of the leadership team.
Mhm.
But I do feel several steps away, I guess, from the action, which I have mixed feelings about. It's similar to taking steps away from clinical work, which
Right.
this year was huge for me. 25 years of being a practicing psychologist because I got my master's degree in 2000 and my PhD in 2003. But this year, I officially let go of my own caseload so I could do all the other.
Mm.
And I have similar mixed feelings about that, where I really, really miss that one on one in the office. But then I also know it's sort of, just the natural path. I can't do all the things all the time or I would be really fried. So those choices are difficult, but it seems like it's a part of the path to making sure that this baby that I've poured my blood, sweat, and tears into for 18 years, that it stays strong with my attention on big picture vision things that just have to happen if we're going to stay alive and keep growing in these tough times we're talking about.
Right, right. Yeah, so what was that transition like? Because that's something that I work with, y and I say younger practice owners, but I mean actual younger practice, not the not the age of the practice owner
Right.
themselves, but younger practices and sort of because there's a stage where you can do it all yourself, and then there's a stage where you have to bring on some, whether it's like a clinical manager or something, and then there's another stage where you really have to build a leadership team, and
Yep.
then there's a further stage where, like you're talking about, you really do need to step away from all of the day-to-day stuff and just work on the visioning. So, like,
Right.
can you walk us through that process a little bit? Like, how did you know when it was time to go through each of those stages?
Right. Well, I still find it, honestly, for me, is a couple steps forward and then one back because
Mm,
some of these challenges we're talking about with referrals and networking and marketing, in some ways, I feel like I'm back in the day to day trenches more than ever.
mm,
And it's a little frustrating at times because it does feel like going backwards to be sweating networking meetings and posting about this and that. But I guess I guess for me, I'm still trying to make sure I give myself enough mental and physical space to do the big picture vision stuff and then trusting my team. And, as a self proclaimed true type A, I would prefer to be able to control everything and have everyone do everything exactly the way I would do it. That would be
same.
wonderful. So that letting go and knowing things may not be done exactly the way I want it and that that's okay. That is like a day to day struggle for me too. And
Mhm.
then that battles with, do you know about the concept of extreme ownership and the book written on that?
No, tell me more.
Oh my gosh. I love this book. It's one of the best books I've gobbled up this year.
Putting
I
it on my
listened to it.
Spotify list.
Yeah, yeah. It's written by SEALs, like Navy SEALs guys, two guys that were in it. Like they were heavy in when we had the Iraq war and conflict. So they take all of their principles that helped them thrive in war and combat and now they consult with businesses around the country with that concept of extreme ownership, which is basically pulling me back in the weeds again because the concept is everything comes back to me. If there is a
Mhm.
part of my practice that is not going well or it's weak right now, and my admin aren't taking calls the way they should, or providers aren't following up with clients for retention, I can't complain about it and grumble. All that comes back to me as the leader. It's extreme ownership saying all that belongs to me. And if there's a problem, I need to get involved enough to give clarifications or insights or encouragement or support until it's done the right way. So that concept has been so eye opening for me. And I've used it a million times with my leadership team this year because the idea is I have it, but then they have it for their branches that they oversee. If there's something going wrong with the providers not doing things the right way, my chief clinical officer needs to adopt extreme ownership and say, well, that rests on my shoulders. Then how do I take on that responsibility and ownership to resolve that? So I love the concept. But if I'm really honestly embracing it the way you're supposed to, it means I'm coming back in again to be a little bit more intimately involved with the day to day runnings of the office because you can't really practice that from afar.
Mhm.
So that's been an interesting part of the, I guess, two steps forward, one back, because it's
Mhm.
not about micromanagement, but it's about
Yep.
taking responsibility for the successes and the weak spots in your practice and then being involved enough until it's resolved and then going back up here to do all the fun visiony big picture stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting because as I was looking at this, I gotta tell you my initial reaction is I have a negative reaction to it
Ah,
because it says lead and win, and while I want us all to win, I think from a like, the way that I would talk about it from a right use of power standpoint is we would call it the 150% principle,
oh,
where in every relationship, the person who has the leadership is 150 percent in, while the other person has 100% responsibility.
Ah,
And so I talk about that with leaders all the time about like exactly what you said, that yes, you are the business owner at the end of the day. And if something isn't working, it rests on your shoulders.
right.
But I also like the empowering of the other person too, so that it's
Mhm.
not just because I know a lot of therapists will take on more than is their fair share. So it's like, you don't have 250%, you just have 150%. The other
Yeah,
person has the 100 that they bring in. Because I just there's something about like, and I'm making assumptions based on my judgment of the military and like what that means for some
sure.
people and whatever. That's my lens on it. So just wanted to throw that out there for folks who, if you also look at the cover and you're like, "That's not for me," Rupee's 150% principles. It's all the same stuff at the end of the day. It's just like
Yes.
the language and the vibes and right, the values.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess how it's packaged
Yeah,
and it's funny that I was even attracted to that book. I can't remember. I heard about it from someone else, and then as soon as I listened to the introduction, I was hooked because, yeah, it's probably much more than what it sounds like on
yeah,
paper. And some of the stories
yeah,
they tell, where just the exercise in adopting that
yeah.
mentality, no excuses, no blaming other people.
Yes,
You own this. Some of the stories of like, even in their training, it's just unbelievable what happened with that mindset change. Nothing else, like the physical strength, the people on the team, nothing else changed, but the mindset had
yes.
unbelievable consequences. So that is when I got excited about the idea.
And I think you're right, because one of the trends that I have seen, at least in Chicago, but I'm guessing Chicago's not the only one because I also see this on national Facebook groups too, is like there seems to be sort of a generational trend of, as we've understood more about trauma, more people are identifying as trauma survivors, and we are applying a lot of like clinical psychotherapy language in ways that might not be 100% accurate.
Right.
And there seems to be less personal responsibility taking, because I think it's the boomerang of, our parents not taking responsibility for that, or they fucked us up, right? And so now some younger folks are like, "Well, it's all my parents' fault." And it's like, "No, no, 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 no. Your the healing or the hurt was not your fault, but the healing is your responsibility," right?
Yes. Amen. Preach. Yes.
And the way that I see that play out in the workplace feels very interesting right now, because I do see a lot of expectations of employees, but not necessarily that 100% that they're bringing to the table.
Oh my gosh. I was thinking that a while ago. And it seemed like a little sensitive topic because I never want to cast judgment on an entire generation. And I'm the mother of a Gen Z.
Mhm.
I think they both are Gen Zs who are not the stereotype. Like they're crazy. My oldest, the 22-year-old, is working, 50, 60 hours in her new big girl job. So I know there are exceptions to every stereotype. But like when you were talking about how private practice life has shifted, I think dealing with maybe some newer generation expectations around the hours they want to work and pay
Mhm.
and like how much they want to do is sometimes really challenging because those of us that are, let's say, 50 and we like to brag that our generation, Gen X, like we're the work ethic
Yep.
and we all paid our dues and we know the value of doing the grunt work. I think some of that has been really challenging to just understand. It is what it is. Every generation has its challenges, and some of those expectations that the newer generation comes in with when they want
Yeah,
to join your practice is real, and we can't complain about it. We just have to figure out how to adopt
exactly.
that nice curiosity that they say is good to say, "Oh, well, tell me more about how you would envision your ideal schedule." And then talk about what our needs are and try to have that conversation end up somewhere in a productive place.
Well, and a thing so I was listening to I never listened to Mark Maron's podcast before until his final episode where he had Obama on,
Oh,
and Obama said something that resonated so clearly. He said, and he's Gen X, right? So he said when Gen Xers were coming of age in the workplace, the world was fairly stable.
Right.
And even though like you said in 2007, 2008 there was a financial crisis, but that was really like the worst thing that was going on at the time. I mean, we had 9/11.
Yeah.
We obviously terrible things happened. Please
Right.
nobody at me, but the world was a lot more stable than it is right now,
Mhm.
and I you could not pay me enough money to be a young person right now trying to establish a career, especially trying to figure out how to be a therapist
Yeah.
while the world is literally crumbling, and this is not the world you are trained to therapize in.
Yes.
So I do give a lot of credit for it to work 40 hours a week right now. I don't know how literally anyone is doing it because
Yeah.
the like what is it called? The like metastatic load of the anxiety of just existing as a human in the United States at this time is way more than we bargained for.
That's right. Yeah, and that's where I know we haven't really talked about the comedy side of what I do, but I'm thinking about that more than ever. Even in fact, today I composed an email on the subject of culture and vibe to some of my team because I if I'm doing all of these talks about how powerful laughter and humor are and how important it is that especially in these tough times we don't do it in an artificial sugarcoating way, oh, ho, ho, but to still try to find humor and laughter in our day-to-day lives is so important. And I definitely don't want to be guilty of being a great speaker on this subject and then having my own home or private practice not living that out. So it's really on my mind that culture and vibe and still bringing positivity and fun
Yep.
as much as we can in the world crumbling around us is like,
Mhm.
for me, sometimes just as important as the work we do in the office with the client. It's all that extra attitude and just how we bring ourselves into the world right now that is just so contagious for good or bad.
Yeah. Since you just outed yourself, you do have an alter ego that we will have your alter ego on Conversations with a Wounded Healer at some
She's
point, but
excited. Yeah,
she's
she's
very
very
excited, right? But so you are a comedian, well, not you, your alter ego is a comedian,
right.
right? Right?
Right. Kiki.
And I truly do believe, like, I've started listening to Amy Poehler's podcast, Good Hang,
Oh,
because sometimes I just need something that's not about what's going on right now,
yes. I
and
love her.
I know, and she was speaking to this need for joy, and if we are only in the negative stuff, like, that's also not the fullness of life, and even though things are awful and terrible right now out in the world, like, we can find joy, and so I love that you have this other job and you get to make people laugh, and that's how I fell in love with you, so I'm really
Yeah.
glad that you outed yourself there.
Yeah, and it's little small things. Like I had a quick phone call today with my chief clinical officer that helps me run the office, and she and I have a long running joke when we're having a tough week or a tough day where we talk about jumping in the car and just heading south towards the border and then towards like Florida. So today she called me up and she was like, "So are we headed south?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah. Now I believe your house is south of mine, so I can be there soon."
Yep,
And even something as short and simple as that, we were both
yep.
laughing. And then we got into the actually pretty difficult conversation we had to have about, something going wrong in
Mhm.
the practice today. But that little bit of levity that started off the call, it just made all the difference. And so I'm just such a believer that we have to try to find those moments as much as we can throughout the day with our teammates, with the people that work for us, with our clients, with our loved ones. I mean, it just should be something hopefully on our minds no matter what the setting and who we're with.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sad that the time has gone so fast, but do you want to tell people where they can find you and your practice and maybe even your comedy if you want?
Sure. Yeah, I don't know if Kiki, I feel like it's those funny old movies with the multiple personalities where
Yeah.
I'm like, let me bring Kiki here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So for my practice, if anybody wants to learn about us, and some of us are the SciPact licensure, which means we can practice across almost all the state lines now, which is pretty cool.
Mhm.
So the practice is winsfamilypsychology.com. That's our website. we're on Facebook under the same thing. You can follow Wynns Family Psychology on Facebook. And then they can also get my contact information on there if they want to reach out to me directly. And then on the comedy side, I do most of that on Instagram. So the Instagram handle is Kiki's Comedy Club, Kikis Comedy Club. And that's not just comedy shows, but also some of what I think we'll talk about next time with the humor coaching and humor workshops, like you got to see at our conference. I post all that stuff on that Instagram too. And people can always DM me on there too if they want to ask about speaking or coaching or flying me out to their city to do a comedy show in a packed comedy club, whatever the
That's
question is,
right.
they can DM me. I still respond to all DMs, believe it or not. So I'm not too like
You're not too good
this.
for it?
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's so good to spend time with you. I just adore you, and, yeah, I can't wait to have you back for my conversation with Kiki.
Yeah, the feeling is mutual. It's so great to see you again.
You too.